You know, David, what I absolutely love about doing these webinars
What's
is
that?
is the fact that we're on time. It's bang on. It is bang on 5 o'clock right now, and we're live. Because when we do these meetups live, like people kind of you say a certain time, and people rock up like half an hour late, and then
Right, yeah.
everyone does their sort of networking, and then you're like, should we start or whatever? But when we do it online as a virtual meetup, bang on 5 o'clock, ready to go.
Yeah,
Hey
yeah.
David, how are you?
I'm good, yeah.
Nice to see you. Like your background.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
pretty.
I actually have a video on my YouTube about how to make these corporate backgrounds in both Zoom and Teams. Teams, it's not very easy, but there is a hack to do it. So,
Ah, yes.
yeah, just reminds people who you are all the time and what your job is. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I have my. I've actually rearranged my background. I've got my book set up there, and I'm
oh,
all
look.
set. Well, welcome everybody. Today we're talking about. We're going to have a bit of a showdown between Google Sheets and Excel. So I'm looking forward to this. I've actually got some questions for you, David. I was wrestling with some currency and exchange rate things in Excel today, so I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about that. Using Google Sheets is not really an option for me with the client today, so I was just doing Excel, but I'm interested in learning more about it. So hi everybody, we've got the chat. I'll just explain before we jump into it, I'll just explain a little bit about how the chat and the Q&A works. You'll notice either, depending on how you've come in, you'll probably see we've got the chat all at the bottom, and we've got, or at the top, there's a chat option or there's a Q&A option. So you can, if you want to say hi to everyone, just say hi in the chat, tell us where you're from. And if you wouldn't mind just changing it, instead of doing, it tends to default to just the panelists. So just make sure it says panelists and attendees. Hi, Krishna, Jason, Erin, lovely to see you. Yeah, so just say hello and tell us where you're from. So if you have, so this is a meetup, so we want to sort of get people talking. It's going to be a bit of a more sort of interactive session. Hey, Ilga, Maria, Ellen, John. Wow, we've got some regulars. So we've been doing this every week. So we get people that come every single time. It's great to see everybody back again. So in the chat, just sort of, any comments or sort of, if you want to say hi to someone or whatever, you can do that on the chat, or you can do on the Q&A. So you say my sound isn't great, David?
No, you're good now. You're good now. Yeah.
I'm good? Okay.
Yeah, it was just for about a minute.
Yep.
Great.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and if you have any specific questions that you'd like David to address, you can do that through the Q&A. And if it's a question that you want answered, you can also, if you can answer the question, you can do that as well through the Q&A. So I might just, we might get started. I'll just introduce David briefly. David is joining us from Cambodia. So he's lived there for many years. I met him first at an Excel summit here in Sydney. So you come to Sydney every now and then, don't you, David?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I was looking forward to catching up with you in London this month, but we'll have to wait for that one.
Yeah, I know. That's really unfortunate, yeah. But,
So David just actually recently became an MVP, which is very exciting. He's a corporate trainer for 1,500. You've trained over 1,500 people. Fantastic. And he is the founder of data analytics firm Excel Consulting, chartered accountant, and he is a YouTuber. So I'm going to pass over to you, David.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so let me know when you can see me.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. All right, so thank you, Danielle, for the introduction. Yes, let's look at remote working tech between Excel and Google Sheets. So I did write an article in June 2018, so around 2 years ago, about 7 things that Google Sheets does better than Excel. But then not too long after, probably about 4 months later, Excel had actually added exactly those functionalities. Excel continues to add basically the same things as Google in many avenues. Excel keeps improving in many ways, but some of the things they've added have been very similar to Google's. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you exactly how things are today, including one feature that, I kid you not, got released yesterday that is very relevant for this. It's actually also a Google Sheets similar feature. So my name is David Benheim. I do have a YouTube channel under my name. So on my corporate background, you can see my name as well. If you search for that, you'll get my YouTube channel. I've got over 100 videos. I'm quite new to it, so I'm not in the super leagues, but I am getting about 12K views a month, which has increased from about 10K 2 weeks ago. So it is increasing a lot in this time period.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm focusing a lot on trying to get content out. And now that I'm an MVP, as Danielle mentioned, as of 2 months ago, that means that I get direct line with the Microsoft developers in Excel, and I also love PowerPoint. But I get to be on calls with them about twice a week about where the future of the software is going, which is quite cool. I am also a chartered accountant. I qualified in the UK, and I'm a Microsoft partner. Plus, as Danielle said, I do corporate training, predominantly in Excel, and my consulting firm has worked with over 120 organizations. So we're going to talk about 5 things today. And at the end of each section, we're going to give you guys a vote on which one you think does it better, whether it's Excel or Google Sheets. So we're going to kick off with co-authoring, and then we'll look at tables. We're going to look at idiot proofing, currency data, dynamic arrays, and then we'll get to the finish line. So kick off with co-authoring.
Before you jump in, we just got our first question from Vivek. He asked,
Yes.
You mentioned that there were some functions that were missing from Excel. Are you going to mention those later, or is that something you want to talk about now?
Some functions are, so features that exist in Google but not Excel?
Yeah.
Yes. That's kind of what this whole this whole thing is. I'll demo the ones that are in one but not the other, and work better in one but not the other.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at co-authoring. So some people aren't aware of this, but Excel can, as well as Google, now support simultaneous editing by different authors. It also supports your ability to save a sheet live. Something called filter views. This was the one that was released yesterday. And if you're sharing to OneDrive or SharePoint, which you need to get these working, then you can access things with files on demand. So these are kind of equivalent in both Google and Excel. Let me show you that firstly in Excel. So I'm going to have Excel on my left. I've got Excel desktop here, and Excel Online is on the left. Now, I don't ever use Excel Online personally. The only reason I'm doing this is because I can't have 2 instances of the same Excel file open in that case. As you can see, this is essentially trying to mimic 2 authors in the same Excel file. One of them, in this case, is Excel Online, but doesn't have to be. You can have 20 authors on their own Excel desktop file, and that works. And if I edit something here, then eventually that pops up there. And simultaneously, if I edit something here, then it pops up over here as well. As you can see, I can see on each screen where the other person is, and I'm allowed to edit at the same time. You can share this document by clicking on the share icon over here, and then you can send a link, and you can decide who can edit it, whether it's anyone within your organization, only specific people in your organization, or anyone with a link inside or outside your organization as well. And they get an email notification, very similar to what you'd see in Excel or Google. So that's how you sort of share a document and edit it at the same time. Some other benefits with this feature, I'm going to maximize the Excel desktop screen, is you can turn on autosave, and then it saves as you type. That is kind of crucial when you've got this feature of co-authoring. You can also just sort of move the file quite easily. So you can rename it to a new name for the demo. And then you can sort of change the location over here and move it to SharePoint or OneDrive. And you can also edit the version history and see all the versioning changes that happened, and then open the version as need be, or supersede the version that was with what it is. So this is much the same in Excel and Google. People are generally familiar with this in Google, but a lot more surprised when it is shown in Excel. But that has been around for about 3 years now. You have to have Excel with Office 365 for it to work, and store in the cloud. All those features don't work. And as you can see, the new name has happened here as well. So let's look at some ways that Google goes a little bit further. So I've got Google on the left here, and now I'll put another instance of Google on the right. So in a similar situation, I have 2 authors. As you can see, it's over here. Now, the reason why it calls it anonymous bat, essentially, when you have a user outside your organization, then Google will just call anonymous and then a random animal. In this case, it's a bat, but it could be other ones as well. If you have someone inside your organization, it will name them as well here. Or if you are sharing it through a specific shared user that's a non-anonymous user, then it works as well. But here I can share with anyone with a link. One thing I do find confusing about Google is that often people want to share this and they inherently go to get shareable link. This is the thing that's the brightest on the screen, but they don't realize that by doing this, anyone with a link can edit it. So if you want to do this for a confidential information, do not do that. Keep it as off, and then only invite people one by one to edit that. In this case,
that is such a good point, particularly for sensitive information.
Yeah, I found this with Google Sheets. People just click get shareable link because it seems like the appealing one. But this should say, get public or something like that, so that people are more reluctant to click it. All right. So some other cool stuff that is in Google but not Excel. So over here we are in Google Sheets. Now, what I can see if I want to is if I go to this cell here, I can right click and choose show edit history. This is fantastic. Here are all the edits. So anonymous user, because I'm not signed in, entered, replace 62 with 92. Keep going. And this was David Benaim. I made this edit at the exact time what it showed there. And keep going through the entire history. This is when I replaced with a formula with hard coding, etc., right until the end, until there's no more edit history. And that is fantastic. What Excel does not even come close to that. And there's so many use cases for it. The tech that sits behind this is incredibly complex because they have to log every single edit for every single cell by user, by time, etc. There's entire tables for every cell that is needed to support this feature. All right, so one thing that is, I don't know, I've just put it in here. It's not directly to do with co-authoring, but it's just a really cool feature that I didn't have another place to put it. You can select some data where you have some extra white spaces before text, after text, or in the middle of text. And there has forever been a function in both Excel and Google called trim. And that's nice, but Google goes a step further. In the data tab, you have trim white spaces. That's it. It's so nice. It does it in place and you don't have to use a formula.
Love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, right? It's so simple, but so practical. All right, another one that I am going to show now is, well, what happens when people use filtering? So if you've done co-authoring, then this is probably an annoyance. So let me go back to Excel. Let's say that over here, this user decides to sort of change the filter. And then this user on the left is just kind of going at their way, doing their own work. And now all of a sudden there is a change in what they see. This is brand new. Do you want to make changes for everyone? So I can say, see everyone's data. And now this other person gets annoyed because they're not able to make those edits. So this is what traditionally happens. And I said there's one feature that got released last night, and that is this next one I'm going to show you. So in the View tab, now you have this thing called Sheet View. And you can save some views. Let's maximize this. So I can save the filter by color. And as you can see, that only shows me these blue ones. Or I can choose America only, and it filters this to only show that. So filter views in Google is called Sheet Views in Excel. It allows you to change a view based on filters and sort options. Nothing else, no hiding or grouping, just filter and sorting. And when you are in a temporary filter view, you'll see this black icon. So it's very, very clear that what's happening is different. So from there, let me exit out of that, and then I get to my normal view. I'm going to say that I want to go to a new view, and I'm going to sort this from A to Z. And I'm going to filter this one by a couple of options there. And then I'm going to press keep. It calls it view 1. I'm going to name that to demo session. And then it's stored that. So now from here, I can, from the drop down, sort of change the views. I can go to options and get some more things like renaming them or duplicating a view or deleting them, or I can switch.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Love it.
For co-authors, it's fantastic. And this has been around for a few months in Excel on the web, this view option. But as I said, what got released last night is the ability to do this in Excel desktop. So I rewrote this part of this session to show you that.
Excel now?
Sorry?
Is that in Excel now?
So it's in Excel for Office Insiders. So not everyone will see it right away.
Cool.
But yeah, certain people will see it there.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So showing you a similar functionality in Google Sheets. In fact, again, I will say Excel pretty much stole this from Google Sheets. You have this thing called filter views, and one user, this person here, can see only what they see, and this person on the right sees something else. Again, you have the black background again. So, and then you have ways to rename it, to change it, and edit the settings. Slightly different, this extra area, but a lot of it is very similar. That's filter views in Google. Actually, I got so excited about this feature last night that I made a brand new YouTube about it yesterday. So I just launched this yesterday. Not many views yet, but please subscribe to my channel under my name, David Benaim, if you want always updated content about what's coming to the software.
Hey, David, we just got a question. Would you mind just specifying, as you go through them, whether the features are, so what you've been doing, is it just 365 or is it the other versions?
Yeah, good question. Everything that I've done so far in Excel is only Office 365. And that is to do, because co-authoring is only in Excel 365.
Most of this stuff's not coming out in the standalone version, isn't it?
Not sure. There's a small chance that these exist in Excel 2019, but I really think it's only 365.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Thanks.
not entirely sure about that one. So in terms of extras, so I find that Excel, saving it to the cloud can break and can be a little bit slower to save versus Google, that you can edit the cell history and you can also external sync. So if you are used to getting to documents directly from your computer, syncing OneDrive or Google Docs, I find that OneDrive and SharePoint are quite annoying in that they don't let someone outside your organization also sync it to their device, whereas Dropbox and Google, you can sync something even if it comes from someone else's computer. And that's quite an important feature for myself as a consultant personally. All right, a little bit about mobile. So Excel has this really cool thing if you are editing something on mobile called Card View, just got released this month. So let's say that you want to edit this row of data. It's obviously not very conducive on a mobile to see an entire row. So you can switch to card view, which means you see these rows and you can expand each one for more details and then edit it in sort of a vertical portrait layout like that. And that will then edit it in Excel desktop, in the shared file. So that is by clicking
Excel
this.
Online.
This is Excel for mobile. Excel on mobile.
Okay, great, yep.
So when you're mobile, you're used to doing things in a portrait view. It's not always conducive to have to, see and scroll back and forth. So what Excel does is it allows for you to edit in a portrait format using this vertical view. I made a brand new video on the new Microsoft Office app, which showcases this feature. It's free, highly recommend it. If it can't win you over with what it does for Excel or PowerPoint or Word, then the scanning features are unbelievable. You can take a photo of a book and it can make that into text that's editable. You can take a photo of a table and it can export it to Excel. Free app on the iOS and Android stores. All right. So with that, let's do a quick vote. So Danielle, can you launch the vote and let's have people say what they think is cooler, Excel or Google Sheets for this co-authoring aspect?
Yep. Okay. So let's see what people think. You should have just seen a poll just pop up on your screen. Yeah. That's what I thought. Most people are saying so far, saying Google Sheets.
Yeah, that's why I would have expected. For me, what does it for sure is the show edit history. This is just fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Okay.
Although Excel is pretty strong in its co-authoring and it keeps being refreshed all the time. I know as an MVP, I know the Microsoft team is working extremely hard to make this feature workable very, very, very well and keeping to update it. So Google is just a little bit more mature in that front. All right, let's go into tables.
Great. So 84% of people said Google Sheets.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
So this is just keep you engaged. So we're going to be doing a couple little polls like this.
Yes. Let's look at tables. I just love this little pig. I found it and I just thought I have to get him into my slides somehow.
He's a gratuitous pig.
Yes. So tables, Excel versus Google Sheets. So the table feature within Excel is one of the probably most underused feature that exists. So let me show you what that is. So you can copy and sort of paste here. So here it's unformatted. You can then go to the Insert tab and choose that you want to make this into a table. Press My Table as headers. And then you can choose from one of these pre-built design options like that. You can even define your own. And even as you add new columns, all the formatting comes across. And it's got tons of features that are just fantastic. If you write a formula like this, notice instead of referencing the cells A5, A6, instead it references the names of the columns. It's got a lot of other things. It's dynamic in the way that expands and does a few other additional things. However, for a first-time user to click it, it might be unappealing because basically everyone thinks that what they do in Excel is already in a table. So the name I find is not very good. I call this a super table in my courses to get people excited about it because no one has ever gone into Google and written, how do I make a table in Excel? And that's why I think this functionality, which they're missing out on, is really, really key.
I know people always say, oh yeah, I'm using tables. Yeah, it is, but it's not a table.
Yeah, Excel calls this a range, which I think is just a bad naming front on their side. So Google does have an equivalent. It's not quite the same, but with Google, if you add a new column here, you do get the new features. However, your formulas and everything else is the same as before. So the only thing that Google does is it gives you this alternating formats and then allows you to edit it. So showing you that in this regard, let me clear the filters. So X out of that filter view and then go to format. And you have this thing called alternating colors. You can choose the colors that you like. And then it adds a new row over here. And the formats come across and the formats come to the side as well. But it doesn't really work for anything apart from the colors there. So yeah, that's the table feature. I will show you something else in this section as well. So I will also show you, well, what happens when you need to lock a spreadsheet. So personally, I find that Excel's locking spreadsheet options in the review tab protect sheets. This can be a little bit kind of irritating. So let me, for example, use some grouping, another feature that's rarely used, but I love it. And then let me go to review, protect sheets. And I'm not going to do a password. I'm just going to tick everything like that, including use pivot tables. And then I'm going to undo that. So now I've locked the spreadsheet and I can unprotect it this way. But what I find is quite annoying is that there's a lot of things that people can't do. So for example, if people want to insert something here, it tells them they can't do it. If they want to build a pivot table, it's grayed out. If they want to toggle filters on or off, it's also grayed out. Here. So even though I ticked all the options, including the ones that said use filter, use pivot charts, and insert columns and rows, it still didn't actually let me do it. And grouping isn't allowed either. So the other reason why this is a bit weak is it doesn't go by user. It just does it for everyone at the same time. And only with a password can you edit it. And finally, if you want it to not apply to certain cells, you have to first select the cells, right click and format cells, and then go to protection and untick locked, because everything is locked by default and can be unlocked by selection, which again, I find a little bit confusing. Instead, I would prefer to have something unlocked by default and only locked on selection. So this is where I think
opposite to Excel.
Sorry?
Is it the opposite to the way Excel works?
So that was Excel. Google Sheets, yeah, you sort of select the cells and you go to data and you choose protected sheets and ranges. So you can now select the range that you want to be locked, and then you can set permissions.
So it's the other way. That's a bit confusing. Yeah. Okay.
Which I find more intuitive. It's like, well, what are the things you want people to edit rather than what do you not want them to edit? And then you can also sort of select names of editors who you want to be able to edit that. So you can overwrite that by user rather than overwriting it only never or for everyone. Now, what I will say is that I'm going to say this is only editable by me and press done. So Google doesn't fix all of those options. So Google still kind of, it stops you editing it as we might expect. But if I filter, I often do get issues. It says I can't filter. So that for me is really, really frustrating. So I think personally, Google is a little bit better. It's just still not perfect. I personally think Excel's tables are better, but Google's are a bit more intuitive because it's called alternating colors and it doesn't confuse first-time users. But yeah, that's the end of that section. It's a quicker one. So, sorry. No, I did want to show pivot tables as well in this one. So I will just show pivot tables very briefly in Google Sheets. If people are new to pivot tables, then this is kind of aimed at people that already sort of understand it. So if I select some data, not like that, select some data and go to insert, sorry, it's in the data tab, data, and then pivot table. I'm going to put that in a new sheet. Then I can say I want to see event by girls saved, for example, like this, and it will give me this pivot table. Now, a few things I like about this is that you're able to sort of change the aggregations. You also have things you don't have in Excel, like count unique and median. I have a whole video where I talk about this because I think count unique in particular is a must-have. And you have show values as like this. Excel has about 10 times as many options for this, but I find percent of totals is really the only one I use. And recently you added slices to Google Sheets as well. It's not quite as nice as Excel's, I find. And you can sort of slice it there if you want to. So yeah, one key aspect that I love about Google Sheets pivot tables is that they do refresh automatically. Now, Excel's don't. Excel's are notorious for the user needing to click on a pivot table and then choose refresh all or refresh in the pivot table tab. Now, this is something that kind of annoys me, although I understand why when this was developed in 1991, computers were not fast enough to auto refresh pivot tables. We're in 2020 now. My phone could do it. My phone has enough computer power to do that. So that's something that I don't appreciate. However, when it comes to pivot tables, Excel is definitely more advanced in what they can do. I just kind of showed you a few different things that Excel does and not Google. All right, so in that section, I covered using tables, using spreadsheet protection, and using pivot tables. Danielle, can we have the next vote going on?
Bit of a different response on this one. Yeah.
Okay, what have we got? That kind of what makes it fun. So
yeah. It's like most people like Excel for this one.
Okay.
Great. Just while we're doing it, there's just a couple of questions I didn't tell you about. Just going back in the last section, you were showing an app. I think it was just the Excel app. A couple of people wanted to know the name of the app. That was just the Excel app, wasn't it?
The Excel app.
On the phone.
Excel Online.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just go to Google Excel Online. Excel has Excel and all of Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, Google Sheets has an online equivalent. It stores an Excel file in your, right, there's an error on this. Obviously with demos, you always get an error of some sort.
Always.
Yeah. Well, it asks you to sign in. I guess that's why. So it needs to store it on either corporate or your personal OneDrive, but yeah, it will enable you to do it.
And just another one about when you did the trim white space thing in Google,
yes.
David Harder just wants to know, is it just formatting or does it actually remove the spaces from the cell?
Oh, it removes them, yeah. I can show you again. So I'll add
cool. He just thought that maybe it was just changing the formatting, so it looked as if they were gone, but that's actually gone.
Yeah. No, it's completely removing them.
All right. So I will end the poll now and share the results. So wow, that 93% of people.
Okay, that's cool. I would probably agree on that front, actually. All right. One thing. So Excel Online is actually releasing some features not on desktop. For example, they have an automate tab with ways to record actions. This is similar to Excel Desktop's macro function, but it uses a whole new coding language called Office Scripts. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, then there are lots of online resources. I personally don't find it's quite as sophisticated enough, so I don't really like using Excel Online for now. But I appreciate what they're doing, and I know that it's always improving. So that's
just a quick question from Rick before you move off the table. He asks about denormalizing a 2D table in order to create a pivot table. I'm actually not entirely sure what he means by that. Does that denormalizing a 2D table in order to create a pivot table. Is that something,
Yeah,
do you want to get
I'm
back
not sure.
to him on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand.
I'm
what
not
the-
quite sure either. That's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get back to him. And just quickly, Philippe wants to know, is it possible that two different users can edit a file at the same time on 365 without being online? That's not possible yet, is it?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, when you're offline.
Offline, like when you're on 365, you need to actually go in and share it, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't
Does
think
it sync
I
offline
put it
changes?
very well.
I think I'm actually not sure about that one. I
You
could
might-
look.
Yeah, that's okay. You can get back to us
Yeah.
about that one maybe. All right, cool.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
So next one, idiot proofing. Oh no, poor guy. So idiot proofing is in my lesson what I call data validation. People don't use data validation enough. 88% of Excel spreadsheets have errors in them, and so many of those are to do with data validation. Just for me, if there's a column that has a date, I force it to be a date. If there's a column that has a number, I force it to be a number. I don't just do data validation when it would be nice to have a drop-down list, which is what unfortunately a lot of people do. Always lock down as much as possible. Otherwise, you will run into errors later on in your analysis stage. So talking about data validation. So I'm going to show this on Google mostly because it's just absolutely brilliant. So you can insert checkboxes. Isn't that nice? You can just tick them like that. How do you do it? Select some cells, go to insert and choose checkbox. That's it. You can then do count ifs of ones that are ticked if you want to later on and get to it that way. Also, if you have a date, if you make data validation for dates, so just to show you how to do that, select your column, go to data validation and say this is a date, choose your start and end parameter. You can also say reject input or show warning. I always do reject input. What's this? It's a date picker. I didn't have to do anything except set it to be a data validation as a date.
Yay!
That nice?
That's so exciting.
So all those are really, really good. Also, if you have a list, so I'm going to do this one, just set it up like this. So I'm just going to do a few names here and put that over there. Just the names. Notice that I do have some duplicates. And then I'm going to select this and go to data and data validation and choose this as a list from a range and then select it. Excel's is much the same, Excel's version to do this. I always leave blanks just in case people need to add new names. Then I reject input and press save. And if I go to the list, there are no duplicates and there's no white spaces. Can you see that?
Woohoo, love it.
Not what Excel does. If I do the equivalent in Excel,
it's
I
such
say
pain with it. You have to kind of fiddle about with it and make, use the dynamic arrays and stuff to get that to work in normal Excel.
Yeah. So if I select that from this, notice the duplicates and the blanks, then my data validation list has blanks and has duplicates. So those are a couple of features that are well and good, but that's by far not my favorite feature. Let me show you an example of a website like this. So let's say you're trying to book a flight, probably not advisable right now, but you're probably used to this website. When you want to look for a city or an airport name, you're probably used to being able to type and getting this to autocomplete. Imagine if you didn't have that option and you had a drop-down list here and you needed to manually look through every single airport in the world to get there. Well, that is what Excel makes you do. Excel does not have autocomplete. As you start typing, it doesn't give you a list of preset ones. Google Sheets does. We just set this one up. If I put a T, these are the two options. And I can just select them that I want there. What I do, in fact, is I use this sort of coding with like a new word. This is a hierarchy. So country, continent, country, city. These are, by the way, all the cities that me or some of my ancestors are from. We're pretty global. Phnom Penh, Cambodia, Gibraltar, New York, Israel. But anyway, what I love about this is that you can just sort of start typing New York and it gives you that option, right? You can start typing USA and it still gives you those options. So this for me is just so immensely transformational that it actually serves the purpose of shifting from Excel being a spreadsheet to Excel being an application. Because you have this feature that you're able to replicate what's going on here. I find this is just so insanely useful that I have decided to build entire platforms on Google Sheets instead of Excel because of this exact feature. When people need to do data entry, they don't want to scroll down long lists. This is not that long, but if you have a list of 300 items, which is not that rare, no one wants to do that. It's just going to mean they end up making mistakes because they don't end up doing it. Now, Excel side. So Excel does have some wins. If you want to audit data validation, then go to Special in the Find and Select tab is really, really good. You can say data validation, and it will just select every single cell that has data validation. You can also do data validation same, and it will select only the ones that have the same one as the cell previously selected. So that is really good for auditing because data validation easily breaks with copy and paste. And if you go to data validation here, it can very easily show you that. Google Sheets does not have that functionality, which is definitely a win for Excel. Another one that is sort of similar, but not quite the same is this feature called Flash Fill. So what you're able to do is you're able to split out things here. So I could write a preset entry like that, select some other, let me get rid of this blank because it'll probably get confused there. So I can sort of select some cells, go to the data tab in Excel and choose here, choose Flash Fill. See what it's done there? It's taken all of those. Flash Fill is a machine learning feature that can even correct mistakes that are done in certain places. For example, let's say that what I want to do is actually just extract the first 5 characters. So I'm going to do Flash Fill. And if I immediately sort of change the first entry to only be the first 5 characters there, it will then do it in the whole column. So Flash Fill is machine learning. It allows you to change the steps that you do the first time for future times as well.
And does Google not use Flash Fill?
Google has no Flash Fill. Google has no Go To Special. Annoyed, but yeah. All right, so that's the end of that section. Google has no duplicates and blanks in lists. It does autocomplete. It has checkboxes and date pickers. Excel, though, Excel has Go To Special and Flash Fill. So let's do the vote. Any questions on that?
Yes, sorry, it just took me a few minutes. We've got the polling up now. Just a couple of questions actually while the polling is going on. Just coming back to the date picker, a couple of questions about date. So John says there's his understanding with the Excel date picker is that there isn't one for 365 and that they were working on it or it's been dragging out or something. Do you know? about?
Yeah, so if you go to the user voice website, it does actually say that they are working on a date picker, correct? Yeah.
Cool. And a question from Rick, he says he's a constant struggle dealing with date fields that are formatted to USA standard, but the PC is configured to another standard, which can recognize and convert better. So which of those between Google and Excel would handle the conversion of the dates to US versus other regions?
I think Excel has a feature to convert them. So not something I was going to show, but
That's all right.
personally, I always do the dates like this with 3 characters for the month.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That way there can be no misinterpretations, definitely.
Yeah.
And just one other quick question from Nelson. Are there any really good conversion tools for files between Excel and Google Sheets?
I mean, you can export or import one from the other. From Google Sheets, you can download as an Excel.
Yeah, but if there's problems with conversion, are there some tools that you need to use?
Personally, I haven't come across the need for that. I do it relatively often, but I haven't seen it.
So with the poll, it's pretty much 50-50.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, cool. Yeah, wow, that is 21-21. That's a big number as well. Okay, I'm gonna.
Everyone's voting. Great, we've got some good engagement.
I'm going to go a little bit faster. Danielle, how strict are we on the time if I finish a little bit?
Look, we usually try and keep these to under an hour, and but that's okay. If we go a bit over, that's all right. I don't want to rush you.
Okay, I will speed up. Let me just show you this trick. It's very, very hidden for how to answer one of the questions, how to swap between American and US style dates. So here I have 3 versions of dates that could be either. This is only in Excel, not Google. You go to data and text to columns. I don't know why it's in here because it's nothing to do with text to columns. Just press next 2 times and then say this is a date that's coming in as MDY. Press finish and it switches it.
Wow, I never knew that was there.
Yeah, right? Like, why is it in text to columns? But yeah. I can't remember. I was reading a blog post about Power Query, and they said how to do it in Power Query, and then they had a passing comment like, this can also already be done within text to columns within Excel, but I was like, wait, what? So I looked for it and I figured it out. But yeah, it's so hidden, some of these tools in Excel. All right, so let's do the next 2 together. Currency data and dynamic arrays. So currency data, Excel has a brand new feature called data types, which is pretty revolutionary. I'm going to compare that with Google's. So Excel, if I go to finance, so I can select some stocks, I can select some pairings like this. And I can go to the data tab and choose stocks. And then it is able to pull up all of this information about the stock. If I want to, I can just sort of add a column for the price. I can add a column for, I don't know what how many employees there are, et cetera, et cetera. Also works with currency pairs if you use it like this. You go to stocks and you can then go here and choose sort of the same sort of things. There are fewer options in currency pairs, but the price is there. Now, seeing as how we're talking about, this is the financial modeling group, what's obviously extremely important in this is historic rates. Now, as amazing as this is, this only gives you current rates. It can give you the 52-week high or low, but that's not really an exact rate. Again, user voice says they are working on it. I actually have a video that I made on my YouTube about all the things coming to Microsoft Office, Excel, Teams, PowerPoint from all of the different sources that I've compiled. And there's some really cool stuff in there if you are interested. There's even a way to be able to link Excel to your own personal bank account and then have it pull up all the transactions you've made. So that's coming soon. This survey stuff, this was about unpivot in Power Query, but I don't think we'll have time to do this. Let me just show you the Google equivalent. So Google Finances, I can write sort of equals Google Finance, or, well, let's first write some, okay. So let me show you this one. So this is built in with Apple. This is a function, Google Finance. So you can say what the stock ticker is. So here we've got the Apple one, and then we can say price, but I can change the attribute to all, for example, and then close your speech marks, then say a start date and an end date. So I could say this is 2006 and goes all the way till today. Make that dynamic. Loading. Oh, I think, yeah, I need to say daily here or weekly. No. Sometimes get a
Demo gremlins.
Oh, it's overwriting. Okay, I just need to give it more space, I think. Yeah, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
That has now created how many? 3,600 rows of data. I can go even further back if I want to, and go till 2003, for example. And it's given me the open, the high, the low, the close, the volume. This is what it calls all. It does have some other stuff as well. You can look up the Google Finance website to get more details about what it is. And this does also work with currency pairs. So what I've actually done is I've pre-built something, a Google Sheets file that is able to pull up all of, the user can basically select a currency, and then it can pull that up and show you everything that you want to see. Choose your date parameters, and it can show you averages. Again, combining what I showed you earlier. Sorry, having a bit of a bug here. Go to my other one. Sorry, the shortcut for Zoom also is a shortcut for Google Sheets, so that's why that's happening. Right, so here I am with Google Finance. So this is the different things that it can do. You can also, if you want to, throw that all into a Sparkline. So Google Sheets has a feature called Sparkline that's in a function. Excel has it not in a function, but in a in something on the Insert tab. But because it's in a function, you can throw in the Google Finance there. And let me change, for example, to be 2019 till the end of the year. And then you can see it's going to load that up in a trend line here. So this is another really cool feature. And because Sparkline in Google is in a formula, you can do that in this way as well. All right, so fast forwarding a bit to dynamic arrays. Oh, okay, yeah, let's have the vote.
Just don't keep going, it's all right. I'll just pop that one up. Do we think about currencies?
Yeah.
Cool.
Ah.
So
I'll show you. Oh, I don't know what that was. Yeah, I'm just going to open up the file quickly. There you go. So this is something that I developed. So here, the user can essentially type in USD. Let's go. Yeah, it sometimes takes a little bit of time to load. Oh, that's why I was comparing it with the US dollar. So this is showing that it's loading. Look at that. It's giving me the exchange rate compared to all these other currencies, 7-day, 30-day, 365-day trend. And I also have a way to do averages. So you can select a start date and an end date, and then it can give you the trend. but it can also break it down by date, by month, and by financial year. How do I do these things? These are pivot tables. And what's really important about these pivot tables is that they refresh automatically. Another feature that's not possible in Excel. And again, when you have these data validation lists, look how much nicer it is to be able to start typing and get the autocomplete. So these are a lot of features that unfortunately Excel does not have. In fact, if you are interested in receiving a copy of this, this is just a template that I've used. If you get in touch with me after the webinar, then and subscribe to my YouTube channel, then I can give you this and send it to you for free. You can use this as you like, built into Google Sheets, and just edit the blue cells. So if anyone is interested, then let us know after the session. So let's go into dynamic arrays. Now, dynamic arrays came out in Excel about a year and a half ago. And this is, for any Power Excel user, probably the biggest change that's happened to Excel since pivot tables, maybe even before pivot tables, apart from Power Query, because Power Query is great. But dynamic arrays mean that you can write a formula in one cell, in multiple cells, and have that work here. So for example, I could say here, I want to do equals this entire column plus this entire column. Press, doesn't work in a table, and then it will give me all these results in the one column. So this got launched by Excel, and they were very, very accomplished about it, and it is a tremendous effort because they've rebuilt their formula engine from the ground up. However, Google has had this for a while, and Google does it in a slightly different way. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the differences between them. Excel came up with 6 different functions within this: the filter function, the sort and the sort by function, the unique function. I love the unique, particularly unique and unique with sort together is just really great. So I could say, for example, equals sort and then unique. Select all of these cells, close my brackets 2 times, and then it just does that. And it's dynamic. If this becomes a new country, it will add it to the list and sort it automatically. This is really good for creating dynamic drop-down lists. This is, again, only available with Excel 365 or Excel Online. Actually, this works in both. But sort and unique are fantastic as well, as is filter. I could say over here, I could say equals filter all of these columns where this column is equal to Thor, and speech marks like that. Then it will give me all the rows where that's the case. Now, if you type anything in a dynamic array, it'll give you the spill error. And what is sort of useful as well is that you can sort of say you want a count of these cells. And if you do the entire array, it has this notation with a hashtag. So those are cool features that allow you to work effectively with dynamic arrays. Again, I am going through it really fast, but those are some important things. Now, what do I not like? The filter function doesn't have a way of handling headers, right? If I want this to work, I need to manually copy and paste these headers in here. Plus, although this is fantastic, I'm a little bit limited by the same order of my columns. I can't skip some columns, etc. Let's look at Google's equivalent. So Google's equivalent is, it has the same function called filter, but it also has a function called query. And what query does is it allows you to specify that you want to use the headers. And you can write any SQL code in the query section. For example, select columns A, D, E, and B in that order, where D is USA, and sort them by column B. So you can really go much more granular in how you can get this query. In fact, I said I often create custom solutions for clients in Google or in Excel. The reason why I use Google is because of, sorry about that. The reason why I might use Google is because of the drop-down list features and because of this query function. It just gives me so much flexibility. Now, what does Excel do better? If I do equals this column plus this column, this doesn't work. It only gives it to me in the one cell. And it doesn't have a way to refer to it with a hash symbol. Google, however, does have some other functions. For example, was a really quick one. Where is it? Yeah, here. So I could say, for example, equals split. And this one, I want to split it by a delimiter and close my brackets like that. See what it's doing there? And I can drag that down. So it's now splitting it into multiple rows, multiple columns. Google has one called sort n, which you can say, give me the top 6, the top 10, etc., which Excel doesn't have. So yeah, there are some differences. Also, the way that Google does referencing from one sheet to another uses this dynamic arrays feature, which makes it more complicated to make, but a lot more robust and less likely to break. All right, so that is the end of what I wanted to demo. So yeah, let's have a vote for that.
Oh, it's neck and neck.
Oh yeah?
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. I can confirm I've just had another 12 YouTube subscribers. So thank you for that, guys. I am still quite low. I'm not yet at 1,000, but I only started.
Oh, you got more than me.
8 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Wow. So thank you for that, David. Are you going to, so you're going to send a copy of the presentation that I can send out to everybody?
Yes. Sorry, I just have another minute of a couple of slides to show.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, who's going to win? Exciting times. Oh.
Oh, geez. Come on, everybody. We've got just everyone voting, which is
so for me, what is the winner? Who is the winner? For me, the winner is in Excel. I just love this Power Query feature. I haven't shown that because it's just absolutely huge. It does do some things like,
well, that's a whole topic in itself, isn't it?
But Google doesn't come close to having that. But for Google wins for me because of its amazing data validation and its query function in dynamic arrays. Once you've used query function, you can never go back. So here's a picture of Thanos.
Do you use both spreadsheets, or do you say Excel is your default? I think we all kind of default to Excel in this.
I built the one for the solution. Excel is my default, but my timesheet data is in Google Sheets for internally in my company because of that drop-down list and the query function. And sometimes when I build custom solutions, I often choose Google if it's data entry because the drop-down list feature is just so much better. But it depends. I do a lot in Excel. When it's Power Query, I often do both. I do in Excel, in Google Sheets for data entry, then bring to Excel for Power Query, because I just love using all the functionality so on.
Well,
so just to close off,
I can announce that Excel has made it by Oscar. So I'm going to share the results so everybody can see. So that was the final poll. So Excel made it by 5%.
Oh, good. Interesting. Both of them also have forms. So I was at one point going to demo Microsoft and Excel forms. Not many people know Microsoft as a forms equivalent, but it does. I'd say, again, they're very similar. Excel is, yeah, I'm not sure which one I prefer. Again, they're so similar. There are only a couple of things they do differently, like branching. Excel, Microsoft Forms does branching a lot better. Google does like integrations a bit better. So
Nelson asks, can you access data in a Google Sheet live from Excel as an external data source? I imagine you could.
It's not that easy, actually.
Oh, really? I thought it's
Or,
like Power BI or Power Query where you can just pull the data.
well, Power BI doesn't let you do it unless you share the file to anyone with a link. If it's
Oh, okay.
if it's link sharing off or only for specific people, then it doesn't work.
Cool.
Oh, actually, one quick feature. This is quite important. I'll do it in 1 minute. So this is about comments. So everyone's been using comments in Excel for eons. So comments that look like this, people have been showing a lot. However, this is not.
Are you sharing your screen, David?
Oh, right. Sorry, that's why it's been a little bit confusing. Yes, sorry about that. All right, so over here, people have been using this feature in Excel for a while. Now, this is not a comment. A comment, if we're used to using social media, is something you can comment on, you can reply, you can mention people. That's what we use it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, etc. Now, what Excel has done more recently is they have, controversially, they have renamed this entire feature to be called a note. If I want a new note, that's what this is. And if you use Excel with Office 365, you can have a comment feature that allows you to say something like this. And then you can reply. You can mention people. And then they get an email notification. This only works people in your organization. Google, it works everywhere though. And then you have this comments pane over here to be able to see all of them together. So this is really, really useful. Google has had this basically identical functionality for a while, but Excel has just launched it recently. So this is a picture of Thanos right here, who in the Avengers snapped his fingers and half of everything disappeared. So when Thanos snaps his fingers, unfortunately, if you are not using Office 365 and you're using an older version, then everything goes swept away to dust. Because believe it or not, Excel does update all the time, and the feature updates are revolutionary. Here I have a list of what's available in every single version and what's available in Google.
Oh, that's cool. Love it.
So in Google Sheets, I will add that everyone has the same version. You can share everything and everyone has exactly the same functionality.
Yeah.
Here's finally YouTube, my name, David Benaim. If you want to get more videos like this, and I have tons more on Teams, PowerPoint, Zoom as well to go with this. All right.
Great.
Good. That's the end of my talk.
Thank you so much, David. That's amazing. And I can always rely on you to know that you're always up to date. In fact, you helped me with the, was it the Dummies book or was it this book? I can't recall. I remember putting you in the credits for the latest. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think it was this one because there was a lot of stuff on 365 that had just come out as we did the final manuscript for that. So thank you for your help with that because, yeah, just trying to keep up to date with everything is always it's always tough, but I know that you are always up to date. So thank you so much for that, David. That was incredible. I will send out an email with David, if you can send me the presentation and anything you'd like to share with everyone, including the links to your YouTube and anything in particular that you'd like everybody to have a look at. I'll send that out via email to everybody. I am looking forward next week. We've got a couple of cool things coming up. I'm actually doing a little webinar tomorrow. If anyone's interested in joining, anyone's new to financial modelling, I'm a guest talking about just about what financial modelling is, more aimed at accountants. So that's tomorrow. And then next week we've got Marcus Small is going to be. He actually built this amazing dashboard just in Excel on COVID-19. He sort of copied the John Hopkins data. So he's going to take us through on how he built that. And it's just using ordinary Excel and pulling the data through using Power Query. So that'll be really cool. That's same time, same place, next next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And if anyone's interested in the financial modelling webinar, just go to the plumsolutions.com.au/meetup. That page is, we just get that up to date with all the different webinars that are coming up. I will just quickly type, I'll put the link in the email. And the one after that is one I'm really excited about. We've got Kenny Whitelaw Jones joining us from the UK, and he's talking about project finance. So that's more of a financial modelling one. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. So thank you, everybody. And particularly thank you to David, and I'll see you all next week. See you later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.